let's talk about some college hoops. I mean, the Gators,
Yeah.
we took that 1-point loss to Missouri in a shocker. No one really saw that coming. I had a little bit of worry. I mean, in that game, my thought was if we played at Missouri, I think we would be very worried about that game, possible us losing. But we were at home, so I was like, maybe it's close, but I think we'll pull it out. We end up not. Missouri wins it by 1. Missouri is now a top 25 team and just beat Ole Miss last night at home. I think they did.
It was at Missouri.
Missouri's one of the hottest teams, not inside the top 10 already in the country. They went 1-1. They lost to Texas, who's also very hot, winning 3 of their last 4 now, with their 1 loss in their last 4 being by 24 points to Florida. Right? Yeah, we beat by 24, 84, or wasn't it 24? Florida, Tennessee, Texas?
Something like that. I can't remember the score off the top of my head.
But yeah, so I'm not too worried about that Missouri result because Missouri is a really good team, and we had a really poor start to that game. But now we're on a 3-game win streak, including just beating the brakes off of Georgia. I mean, to start this game, the first 6 minutes, Georgia was actually shooting 80%. They were 3 of or 2 of 2 or 3 of 3 from 3. Had 2 misses in the entire first 6 minutes of the game. But Florida was up 20-11 because they already had 6 steals. So that South Carolina game Wednesday, Florida wins it with the last 4 seconds. Will Richard hits a layup, first only lead of the game. I mean, we got lucky to escape out of there. But one big thing I think we learned in that game is how good we can be at press. Because we showed it a lot against Georgia, and we ended up with 18 steals.
I mean, where was that in the first half against South Carolina? They started doing that, and it completely changed the game.
Yep. I think Golden, I don't know if he was holding it, maybe trying to hide it until he needed to use it. I don't know what was happening. But we did end up using it, and it ended up being a miracle worker in that game, and then helped us demolish Mike White and the Georgia Bulldogs. I mean, Elijah Martin had 11 points in the first 5 minutes of this game against Georgia. He had 11 of those 20 points that I mentioned in that first 6 minutes of the game. And, I mean, he finished with 17, so he's still down a bit. But then you had Walter Clayton also finished with 17, finished with 5 assists and 5 steals and 0 turnovers. I mean, I don't think people, especially as of late, Walter Clayton, his player of the year, he wasn't going to win player of the year because Broom and Flagg are that good. But top 5-ish area, I've seen him slowly fall down. I think it's because they're seeing his points go down from 24 to 17-ish. But I don't think what they're looking at is the fact that he's now having 5 assists. I mean, he had 5 steals in this Georgia game, limiting his turnovers. So while he's not putting up the points, he's running the offense at a higher level. And I mean, we put up 89 on this Georgia defense that had been really good in SEC play. I mean, they held down Kentucky in their game against Kentucky. What was it, 70-68 against Auburn?
I think it was 70-69. I think it was a 1-point loss to Auburn. It was definitely one possession. It was definitely one possession. I can't remember.
But they held Auburn's offense lower than what you'd expect from the highest rated offense in KenPom history. So for us to put up 89 against this really good Georgia defense, I mean, I feel like this was the first game offensively that I felt we really played to our true potential. I mean, because even against Kentucky, when we put up 100, it's we missed a lot of open shots, it felt like, and we missed a lot of opportunities.
Free throws, right?
Yeah, missed a lot of free throws. But this game against Georgia, we scored 11 less points than we did against Kentucky. But I feel like it was the most complete I saw us play.
Yeah, I mean, well-rounded on both sides of the ball. I mean, it showed what the ceiling of this Florida team is. When it all comes together everywhere on the court, this is a team that can beat, a tournament team in Georgia by 30 points. That can beat a top 2 seed in the tournament right now, Tennessee, by 30 points. That's how good this team has the potential to be. We've also seen, I'll be honest, I was out of the picture. I did not watch a minute of the Missouri game. So that one I kind of just missed. It seems like Florida was sloppy and Missouri just played a really good game was kind of what I could tell from box score watching on that one.
So what happened? Missouri got up in the first half by like 19 points.
Yeah.
We came out defensively poor. Well, Caleb Grill, who so far in SEC play has probably been the best 3-point shooter. He came out like 5 of 6. He finished the game 6 of 10. So in the he was 5 of 6 in the first half, finished 6 of 10, and that one three-pointer in the second half was a 2. I don't know if you saw that little controversy with his foot on the line.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
That was his one. So in the second half, they really stepped up in the second half. And I mean, we were down by 19 at one point and ended up bringing it to within 1. But one thing about the Missouri team, like I watched it against Ole Miss, when you give them open shots, they hit their open shots.
Yeah.
Like a lot of teams, I mean, us included, what I've seen a lot of the season, we'll hit some difficult threes, we'll hit some open ones, but we'll also miss a lot of open ones. Missouri, they just don't miss those shots. And it's really those daggers in the end of the game. Like they hit that 3 that Caleb Grill hit. That was the 3. That was a tough shot to hit, but they drain them in the crunch time. And that's really what it was, because Florida had a chance to win this game in the final minute. But Missouri, they just hit those clutch shots. Kind of like how South Carolina, they hit a bank-in 3 with what, a minute to go in the game that put them up by 5. That I thought was like, oh my God, we're going to lose South Carolina now.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
No, I mean, dude, that South Carolina game was so telling to me because, I mean, frankly, Florida played horrible for most of that game. I mean, bad offense, turnovers. I think you saw the worst tendencies of the offense, which is it can just turn into sort of desperate high-speed passing and turnover prone. I think that, you just saw a lot of I thought Florida didn't look very aggressive in terms of attacking the boards, in terms of getting back on defense. It felt very lackadaisical. And when they're playing like that and get down, I think 14 points in the second half at one point, I was completely resigned to a loss. I was just like, Florida's not winning this game. It's not like they're playing well and just South Carolina's hitting every single shot. Like, I was like, they're just not playing good enough basketball to win this game. So the fact that they somehow did, I mean, credit to Will Richard, really put the team on his back down the stretch in that game. Obviously hit the game-winning shot with like 4.5 seconds left. The awesome drive to the basket, hit a layup. I mean, I just that showed me so much about this team. I mean, we know how hard it is to win on the road in the SEC. I mean, everyone is losing on the road in the SEC. Even against except Auburn. But I mean, even Auburn, that Georgia game was way closer
than South Carolina game.
And so I mean, it's just tough. I mean, we saw it yesterday. A&M blew a huge lead against Texas on the road. Ole Miss couldn't beat Missouri on the road. Like, it is
South Carolina,
very
hard. State went to overtime.
Oh man, back-to-back brutal losses for South Carolina. It's hard not to feel bad for them.
South Carolina, like 4 of their past 5 games, 3-point loss to Auburn, 3-point loss to Vanderbilt, where they led in like the final minute of that game against Vanderbilt. 1-point loss to Florida, overtime loss to Mississippi State.
That's nightmare fuel. Just nightmare fuel. But
one more thing about that Missouri. Sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
That Missouri game, I forgot to mention one thing. I didn't get a chance to tie it or take the lead. A chance to tie it. Walter Clayton got fouled on a 3-pointer. And Walter Clayton, throughout his career, has been one of the best free throw shooters in the SEC. He went 1 of 3 on the free throw line on that attempt.
Tough. That's tough.
It's kind of like, you remember the Virginia game last season where it was like a 1-point game and Walter Clayton gets fouled and he went like 0 of 2 in like the final minute and we ended up losing that game. That's kind of how like that was like.
Yeah. No, that's rough. I mean, don't have too much to add on that Missouri game. Just seems like kind of one of those games that happened. Frustrating that it happened at home, but they've responded well. And I mean, like looking ahead to Tennessee on the road, like, I mean, I think it's tough. It's going to be tough. It's tough to win on the road in the SEC. Like I just said, I don't think you can necessarily expect that you're going to go into Knoxville and beat them handily again. But, we both said before that first Tennessee game that we thought it was a pretty advantageous matchup for the Gators. I don't think that's changed. I still feel that way after watching that Tennessee Auburn game last night. I still feel like it's an advantageous matchup for the Gators. So, have the chance to go get a marquee road win. It'd be really huge.
Yeah, it would be a really good chance to get that Mark hero open, as you said, against Tennessee. We're really about to get into a point in the schedule that really makes or breaks how high we'll be as a seeding. Yeah. I mean, if we beat Tennessee, right now I see 3 brackets on Bracket Matrix that has Florida as a 1 seed.
Really? I've only seen 2 seed. That's interesting.
Oh, there's smaller brackets but gotcha. Like they're we'll see what happens with the new brackets that release, because Tennessee was a lot seen as like that last 1 seed. It was like them or Iowa State. Yeah. Tennessee lost. I've seen a couple that have us as the first 2 seed ahead of Iowa State. So I figure we'll see a couple like known brackets that end up having Florida as a 1 seed now. Mm-hmm. And I think especially if we go and beat Tennessee on the road, I think we'll really see Florida lock in like that spot as a 1 seed. We do get our bye week, our bye game. We have a week to prepare for this road game against Tennessee. Don't play on Tuesday or Wednesday. I know last year, I think it was like 12-4 or 12. Sorry, there's 14 teams. I think it was like 11-3. The record of teams coming off byes, where like they had to break between their games. I think one of those losses was actually Georgia coming to face us, so that's pretty cool. But Missouri obviously went over. What was it, 16 or 18 games in the conference last year?
They went 0-18 in SEC.
0-18. So yeah, obviously they were one of them as well. So, but we do get that bye. I don't know if Tennessee. I don't think Tennessee does. I think Tennessee plays. Oh, why did that do that? That's weird.
Couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Tennessee plays Kentucky.
Wait, so they've got in
oh my
god, in Lexington or in Knoxville?
Home.
Man, so they're at Auburn, home against Kentucky, home against Florida,
and then home against Missouri.
That's brutal, man.
And then before the Auburn game, they were home against Mississippi State, and then they lost.
There's no way to draw up an SEC schedule that's easy. I mean, Lunardi literally has 13 of the 16 teams in the tournament right now. The SEC is just unreal, but man, that's tough.
I mean, Florida has the easiest schedule in the SEC, according to ESPN, I think it is.
Well, the non-conference is aged even worse.
Well, no, just in the SEC.
Oh, okay.
Just SEC schedule alone.
Got it.
Florida was given the easiest. But then we play a stretch. I mean, we go to Tennessee. Vanderbilt's now knocked off back-to-back top 10 teams. Mm-hmm. So they're looking really good. Yeah. Then we go to Auburn. Then we go to Mississippi State. We host South Carolina, Oklahoma, go to LSU, Georgia, easier games. But then we end the season with home against Texas A&M, at Alabama, home against Ole Miss.
Yeah, that's tough.
I mean, that's 3 to end. So I don't know where LSU is in the net, but we might end the season with 5 straight quad 1 games.
Mm-hmm. LSU is like in the 70s or 80s in the net or something.
So we'll see where they are.
Back. Yeah.
I mean, they had a really close game against
They played well last night. But they're now, I think, 1-5 in the SEC.
They are, yeah. I am so happy Georgia paid us to take Mike White.
It's pretty awesome, isn't it?
That's like the fleece of the century. I mean, we didn't have to pay them. I mean, we didn't have to pay Mike White anything. They paid us over $1 million to take him. I mean, now, obviously, they're better than they were under Tom Crean. So, I mean,
it was a good hire for them. Like, Mike White is a good coach for Georgia and what their expectations are as a program. Because they're like a projected 8 seed in the tournament, and this is like the best season they've had in. Okay, now they're still a projected NCAA tournament team, is my point.
They're bubble now, and they're on a 4-game losing streak.
The point I'm making is being on the bubble is a successful basketball season at Georgia. Like, they have non-existent expectations. If he followed his Florida trajectory of getting there and losing the first or second round every single year, they'd build him a statue. Like, and I'm not even saying that as a shot at Georgia. They've made up their mind about where their priorities are, and we've seen how that's worked out for their athletic department. But it just is what it is. To me, 2 things are true at once there. Like, that was a great move for Georgia, and also it was an incredibly fortuitous for the Gators, the way it worked out.
Yeah, definitely is. I mean, I think it'll be pretty cool to see the SEC break the record for getting 12 teams in the NCAA tournament. The current record is 11.
They might get 13. They're still projected to get 13, I think.
Yeah, we are, but there's going to be some more conference.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if we got 13.
Yeah, that's hard to believe. Texas is right on the cusp right now. Like Texas is like the last. Well, what I'm saying is Texas was in a position where, at least according to Lunardi, they were going to drop out of the projected field had they lost yesterday to A&M. By winning that game, they buy themselves some goodwill. But
I mean, that was a really good win too. So
yeah, I know for sure.
But going to what I was going to say, I'd rather see Georgia miss the tournament than SEC break the record. I think I'd rather see. I want to see Mike White fail. Did you see that he didn't want to do the his post game show or post game press conference in inside Florida?
Is that like I heard that? Was that real? Like, did that come from? I didn't really want to like pass that on because I just didn't know how legit of how accurate that report was. I saw he did a press conference somewhere else, not in the main media room, but I don't know if that's the reason why.
I hope it is. I hope it is.
It's funny. I hope so too. It's really funny if that's true. But I don't. There might have been logistical reasons for that too. I don't know, but that's very funny.
But getting in, we already talked about our next game at Tennessee. What is your prediction for that game?
I'm like hesitant. It's like feels very aggressive to be like, I think Florida's going to go beat this team on the road that they already embarrassed. Yep. But I kind of do think they are. I mean, I don't think they're going to win it by 30. I think it's going to be a really tough game and they're going to have to play well to win it. But I kind of do think they do win it. Just like, I think Florida against like Auburn, that's a matchup that would really scare me. I think Tennessee it's a good matchup. I think Florida's built to beat teams that are built like Tennessee.
Yep. They don't play a really good offense. I mean, at all. And our offense, I feel, is just good enough to score. And our defense is good enough to lock them down. I do wonder if they get JP Estrella back. I think JP Estrella could have been the difference in them beating Auburn. So
I mean, they didn't need much to win that. They wouldn't have needed much to win that game.
And he's probably their best offensive big man. So missing him, obviously, is a big deal. Something we didn't even talk about, Micah Handglotton can play.
What about that, man? I mean, I don't know. Did you see what Todd said after the game about it?
If he calls him and says, I'm ready, he's playing Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it. I see it from both ways from Micah's perspective. I mean, I don't think he's going to come. I don't think he's going to start over Chinyelu if he came back. Maybe he would. I'm not
probably
saying
not immediately.
Yeah. I guess what I'm saying is Micah's, just to be blunt, like Micah's not an NBA player. I think it's understandable if Micah wants to preserve this season of eligibility, whether that gives him more time at Florida or if he leaves and goes somewhere else. Like, I wouldn't blame him if he did that either, to be honest with you. Just the, unfortunate situation, the way things have gone. I don't know if the path to starting is going to be here at Florida in the long term, but regardless, I guess what I'm getting at here is I understand his hesitancy in burning that medical red shirt.
I also wonder if it's not even that and if it's mental, like, going back on the court.
Sure. And I mean, psychological with bad leg injuries like that, like absolutely, man. That was totally understandable.
Especially at 7'2". I mean, I couldn't imagine. I mean, oh my goodness.
I think if he comes back though and plays at a high level, that would be a really nice addition for this team. If there's one limitation here, it's that they don't necessarily have the size depth. You know what I mean?
The backup center, right? We don't have that. Like,
I mean, you have Condon kind of who can play that role.
Yeah, he can.
Well, I'm saying when Chinyulu's off the court, they'll kind of move Condon more into that role sometimes. I think you'd really love to have a third guy though that can do that.
Micah better defensively than Condon is at this point. Yeah.
Condon is a wild card. Sometimes Condon is like a borderline liability, I feel like, and sometimes Condon's like puts the team on his back.
Like he had 14 points and 8 rebounds. He had 4 offensive rebounds, 4 defensive rebounds against Georgia. So like he had a good game.
Oh, he was really good. Yeah. He wasn't that great against South Carolina.
No, he was not. It's really interesting because he goes on from winning the SEC Player of the Week to that game like against South Carolina and Missouri were a bit disappointing from him. But then he rebounds with this win against Georgia. and we'll see what he does against Tennessee. He had a good game against Tennessee last time, right? That was part, yeah.
I feel like everyone had a good
rebounds.
I feel like everyone had a good game against Tennessee the first time.
Yeah, 12 points, 12 rebounds. I think he also had a couple of assists and 2 blocks. So yeah, he had a good game against Tennessee. So hopefully he can do that again. See how different it is. I think the biggest thing though, Sim Alexis, I just don't think if when Condon's on the floor, I don't think Condon actually plays much with Alexis on the floor.
Alexis doesn't play a ton, period, I feel like now.
He had a good game against Georgia defensively, I feel
like he played more earlier in the year than wasn't seeing a ton of minutes, and now he's kind of getting back into the rotation a little bit.
He got 9 minutes against Georgia, 9 minutes against Tennessee, 7 against South Carolina. So like, yeah, I do think Micah would get, I don't know how many minutes Micah would get, honestly.
I mean, I think Micah would be, Micah's probably your instant 7th man behind Aberdeen, right?
Maybe Houck had a really good game against Georgia, too.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Houck is playing well. Yeah, I don't know. It depends on how healthy Micah is, too. I mean, this is a pretty rapid recovery for a nasty injury for Micah. Like, you just don't know where he's at.
That's also what I've been wondering. If he can play, how healthy is he? Like,
yeah. And maybe that's part of the, maybe it's psychological, like you said. Maybe it literally is physical. Like, maybe he's a full participant, but that doesn't mean you can be cleared and be a full participant while still having some lingering like rehab effects. You know what I mean?
Yeah, something I want to check. Oh, okay. I was looking because I remember last year in the Florida Georgia game, they had a big man that was just dominating us. Like, he was hitting everything. But then I thought he was still on their team, but it's someone else. Okay, it's Russell Chue. Because I thought it was Serial. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name. And I was like, why did he only play 13 minutes? But I guess it wasn't him. Because, yeah, I was like, I wonder how we match up against who I thought it was. But we didn't have to. Also talk about Georgia's 5-star freshman, Aston Newell. 0 points in the first half. They did have a little run to start the second half to bring it within 19. They went on an 8-0 run in the second half. And like the start of it, for it to only still be a 19-point game.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how dominant we were in that first half. And
yeah,
we even scored 38 points in the second half. And that game was like already over. It was interesting.
They don't take their foot off the gas. I really like that about this team. When they're winning these games, like that is what was, I was talking about this with my dad actually last night or after the game yesterday. Like, that was something that we did so much with Mike White was get out to a lead and then just shut it down and let teams come back. Like, leads feel pretty safe with this team.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Georgia only had one player in double digits, Blue Kane, who went 2 for 4. With those 2 from 3. So I remember Blue Kane getting blocked by somebody. I think it was Condon. The student section was really yelling at Blue Kane. I don't remember what it was. I think there was something last year with Blue Kane that really got on the nerves of the student section. I can't remember what it was though. And like they really took it to him yesterday.
That's funny. I don't remember what specifically happened either, but that's funny.
But then my prediction. So you have us beating Tennessee, right?
I do. I have us going on the road and winning that game.
I'm also going to pick us to go on the road and beat Tennessee. I mean, it does feel weird Tennessee losing back-to-back games. I mean, and then this would be their how many conference losses they lost?
4,
third, right?
They're 4-3 right now in SEC.
Oh my goodness, Tennessee already having 4 conference losses. It's like the position feels like a Tennessee win, or I guess we'll see how they fare against Kentucky before I say how it feels.
I think they could beat Kentucky at home.
Kentucky also coming off that loss to Vanderbilt though, and it was their bye week too, so that's interesting. Kentucky had their bye going into that Vanderbilt game.
Yeah. I think both Tennessee and Kentucky are pretty flawed. Like, I'd say I still think, and I know Florida lost to Kentucky, whatever. It was a 6-point game on the road at Rupp. Like, I think the teams in the SEC that scare me the most are Auburn and Alabama.
I think we can match up with Alabama. I think if we were at home, I'd pick us to beat Alabama.
I'm not saying I wouldn't. I'm
Bama.
just saying those are the teams that I think are the teams that the matchups I like the least of the other SEC superpowers.
Yeah,
George, I really don't. Auburn scares me. I think they're good.
Auburn's the best team in the country. I mean, there's no doubt about that in my mind. Like, can we just have? Hear me out. I'll come back to this, George. Actually, this kind of works in with what I was going to say about this comment. Micah Hannigal in a revenge game. I mean, got hurt against Auburn. Now he makes his return against Auburn.
That'd be pretty funny.
Is the big reason we beat them? I mean, Then this gets into your comment, George. I'll let you know how I feel about the basketball team if they make it through the first game in the tournament. I'd be very shocked if we didn't at this point.
Well, we're gonna be probably absolute worst case. I'd say like a 4 seed. So
yeah. So, but Mikey Hangle on getting injured. I mean, losing your best offender, but in a game that didn't even matter. I mean, against Auburn in the SEC tournament championship game. But even if we do have an injury, it does seem like we have defensive backups now with Hauk or Alexis. So if the Condon or Chinyeli do get her, or Handlaw now possibly coming back. So, and we are going to be probably a heavy favorites no matter who we play in the NCAA tournament, bearing some collapse.
Yeah. I mean, I think this team, to me, looks like it should have a pretty clear path to getting to the second weekend, which is what all along, that's what I said coming into this year, the expectation and the goal was get to the second weekend. Maybe this is an unpopular opinion among the fan base, but I kind of think unless you're like a Duke level program, that's really all you can expect. Because I feel like once you get that far into the tournament, it's about luck. It's about the path. It's about who's the hottest at the right time. Like, to me, there's so much uncertainty once you get there. It's like, get to the second weekend and then see what happens. And if you've done that, it's a successful year at least at a program like Florida.
Yeah, absolutely is. So going on team rankings or basketball bracketology numbers, if Florida gets to 20 wins, so we're at 18 right now, that gives us a 98.6% chance of making the tournament. So we're
I mean, most metrics have us as a lock already.
Yeah,
like
so even
metrics
if we
that
lost,
lock teams. Yeah,
like even if we lost out, we'd be at like 50% to make the tournament right now.
Yeah,
and if we win one more, we're probably gonna be like 80% plus. But right now our probabilities, we're currently highest probable to be a 2 seed at 37%. Our second highest is a 1 seed, though, at 27.4. So that's pretty close. I mean, I would love to be a 1 seed. It's going to be tough because if we want to be a 1 seed, we probably have to be at least one of Auburn or Bama.
And, I mean, if you don't beat both, you got to hope they both slip up. One of them slips up again somewhere bad. Like,
at this point, too, like going to SEC, winning the SEC, I don't know if we can win the SEC at this point.
I think
if we want to win the SEC, we have to beat Auburn. And then even then, we're still going to need some luck because we're probably still going to lose at least 2 more games.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be probably another Missouri-type slip-up in there. The SEC is just too good. You're not going to win. Like, there's games on that. I mean, look, LSU on the road. Like, that's the kind of game you could lose. Like, they're not a great team, but it's hard to win on the road in the SEC. And I mean, Florida could be 12-6 in conference play, and that's probably going to get you a 2 or 3 seed in the tournament. So
I think 12-6 would get us a 2 seed for sure.
Yeah. So, but like Florida was what 11-7 last year in conference play, and they were
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, we also had like 5 losses and or 3 losses in non-conference plus. SEC wasn't as good as it was. So
yeah, but we had a stronger non-conference because our non-conference was kind of a joke this year. And if we're being honest, like it's aged.
Yeah, but
really
we also
badly.
had like losses. We had losses, 3 losses compared to 0.
Sure. But I'm just saying like that. But I think that also just goes to show how much better the SEC is this year.
I'll also say Wake Forest is rising back up. I mean, they had a really close game against Duke last night, a game that they had the lead in the second half.
Yeah.
So that win, I mean, is shooting up a lot.
They're still not really. I mean, they have a lot of work to do if they're going to be a tournament team, though. They're not.
Well, they were in the tournament going into that Duke game.
Lunardi had them in the as the last team in the next 4 out. They were like They were like on the back end of the bubble, and then that dropped them out of his bubble at all. That's again. There's Jerry Palm or whatever might have something different, but that's where Lunardi had them before that game yesterday.
Okay, Team Rankings has them as the 4th team out.
Okay.
Oh, I've seen other brackets like the team of 64 that had them in. Lenori's last update was January 24th, and okay, yeah, he doesn't have he has Wake.
If you look at his daily,
yeah.
when he tweets his daily thing about
right.
what each game means, that's what he said about yesterday's game. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, but still, that is going up. Yeah, George, I want to be #1 seed in basketball because that's freaking impressive. It really is. And I mean,
Billy only did it twice. Yeah.
Yeah, twice. Yeah, 7 and 2012 or
the second. Yeah, the second title year, and then the Final Four run year.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah, it would be a very impressive thing. I'm gonna say we're a 2 seed in the tournament because, again, but looking back at the SEC standings, if we don't beat Auburn, our chances to winning the SEC goes from like 10%, right? I mean, it's like 5%.
Yeah, it's
probably
pretty high. Because you already got, what are we, 5-2 right now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I will say Alabama. Have you seen Alabama's stretch of games? Or wait, is it not Alabama? No. Thought it was Alabama. Oh wait, okay, here. Look, Alabama ends the season. So from February 11th at Texas, one of the hottest teams in the SEC, home against Auburn, at Missouri, home against Kentucky, home against Mississippi State, at Tennessee, home against Florida, at Auburn.
Yeah, that's nasty work. That's nasty work by the SEC.
1A games.
Yeah.
In the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games of the season. I could see Auburn, I mean, Alabama, I could see them dropping a bunch of those games, which is good for us, obviously.
For sure.
Because, like, they're, what are they? 1, 2, 3, 6-1 in conference play right now.
George, I would say yes, contingent on the fact that we don't drop other games. Like if we're obviously if we're finishing SEC play, with like a 14-4 record, then for sure a 1 seed is a possibility.
Yeah. Again, I mean, if we beat Auburn, I would bet us being a 1 seed. Because like a road win against Auburn, that's the best win in the country. We would have 2 of the best wins in the country. I mean, against Tennessee and against at Auburn. If we can beat Tennessee at Tennessee too, that would make it even better. So that would be really cool. But I mean, yeah, I can't believe how many good teams there are in the SEC.
It's crazy, dude. Yeah, and even the bad teams are good teams. None of them are outside the top 100 in the net. Like,
we need to be 13-5 minimum, go 6-2 the next 8 and 2-1 the last 3. I'd be okay at 12-6. I mean, to be a 1 seed.
I mean, need to be what? Yeah, I guess that depends what you mean by that. If you're talking about 1 seed, you're probably right. I mean, I think Florida can have a very advantageous tournament path at 12-6 or even 11-7.
Yep,
probably. So,
we got to hope that we can get the first round bye in the SEC tournament. If we're talking about winning it, obviously we're gonna hope to have a first round bye. Currently, we're tied 3rd. Missouri has a tiebreaker over us. That would give them.
We'll see if that holds.
Let me look at Missouri's schedule upcoming. They go to Mississippi State, to Tennessee, our home against A&M, Oklahoma, at Georgia, Alabama. I mean, their next 3 games will probably determine if they can contend for a top 4 seed or if they're a team that's going to be a 7-8 seed and 8-7 seed in the NCAA tournament. That's what we're talking about, the double bye top 4.
Yeah, so we're just, Florida's in pretty good shape to get that unless they start losing a bunch of games they shouldn't, basically.
Yep.